What's up, folks? Today I want to talk about plasma cutter art. This is something that I do as a hobby, and I just wanted to share with you guys my experience and talk a little bit about what has worked for me, then stuff that I've learned through trial and error to hopefully get you guys started a little bit faster than I did, so you can learn from my mistakes and start it for yourself. It's a really cool hobby, and you can make some really cool stuff for your house. So this is something that I made just recently. It's two deer, nice buck and a doe. And I cut this out of 16 gauge steel, and this is really cool. This one came out really good, and I'm really proud of it. So let's talk a little bit about what equipment do you need to do this. First thing you need is a plasma cutter. Now typically, if you look here, you can see this looks kind of jagged when you get real close to it. I like this look. I like it to look kind of industrial and sort of, like raw, if that makes sense. But as you can see, this metal is not very thick at all. So when it comes to a plasma cutter, you don't need anything super powerful if you plan to make something that you're going to hang on your wall. You don't want a ton of weight hanging on your wall unless you're going to really do some heavy reinforcement. So when it comes to a plasma cutter, you really don't need anything that is super strong. Now, the one thing that you are going to need is you're going to need to be able to turn the machine way down. When you turn that machine way down, this one I did on 20 amps. I was using it on a machine that was rated all the way up to 60 amps, but I was using it on 20 amps, was the absolute lowest that it would go. And the lower you can go with the amperage, the more precise and the less it will burn the metal. So the ultimate goal is to turn it way down, and when you get it dialed in, you're really going to be able to cut this metal with really fine details. I mean, if you look at some of these areas that I was cutting, I mean, you can see how detailed. I mean, look at the ear, how close I was able to get with some of those areas. So the more you dial it down, the more precise you're going to be able to be. So that's the most important thing. Don't have a machine that's too big. Now, most machines will turn down pretty far, but like I did another piece with a Hypertherm PowerMax 30, and that was by far the best machine that I used because I was able to turn it way down. And I'm telling you, I got some really precise cuts. I'll insert a picture right now of a bear that I made for my dad for his shop, and you can see how much detail was in that bear. I mean, that thing, I was using the Hypertherm PowerMax 30, and it really, I mean, it was like cutting with a pencil. It was unreal. So you're gonna want a machine that you can dial down. Like I said, a lot of the bigger machines you can, but the littler machines actually work better. The Hypertherm PowerMax 30 was great because it came with fine cut consumables. So the actual consumables dialed back the diameter of the arc as well, so it made it really precise. Now, the other thing that you're gonna need, so I'm gonna kind of explain to you guys my whole process now of how I do this. So the first thing I do, and I'll insert some pictures that I have, the first thing I do is I get a piece of sheet metal, I lean it up against the wall, and I get a projector that I hook to my computer, and I will project out an image on the electric projector onto the sheet metal. And what I can do is I can use a Sharpie and trace that image. Now, if you're good, you can freehand it as well if that's something you really want to do. But I like to use the projector because I can get everything really precise and I can see exactly what I'm doing. And I'm not that great of an artist when it comes to drawing. So once you have it projected, you have it the size that you want, trace it out. Next thing that I do is I go to all of the sections that are going to be cut out, and I look to see if in the image if there's anything that needs to be reinforced. Now, in this specific one, there was no spots that really needed to be reinforced, but for example, some of them, you may have an ear, like for example, this ear right here may be completely cut out, and in the image, it's just floating, but you can make small connections to, say, the antler here to connect the ear to make sure that it's better reinforced, or it's not going to just completely fall out when you cut it. So take a look at your image and make those small connections to make the whole thing a little sturdier, if that makes sense. The next thing you want to do is hit all of the spots that need to be cut out. I like to draw little X's in all the areas, and then that lets me know that those X's need to be gone, so that's the area that I need to cut out. That helps me stay organized because when you turn that projector off and you're just looking at the image, it can be a little bit difficult to distinguish what needs to be cut out and what doesn't. And it really only takes one slip of the hand to kind of mess up one of these art pieces. So it's very important that you're really careful with what you're cutting. The next thing, when you're cutting, turn the machine all the way down, use your fine tip consumables, do a couple practice cuts, make sure you're good. When you start the arc, it's always important to have a pilot arc machine. I feel like that's the absolute best way of doing it. That way you can really get precise, and sometimes you have to lift that torch off the metal pretty far to get to those areas that you need to cut. So having a pilot arc machine is pretty important. And pretty much you're just going to go really slow, take your time, and it's going to look awesome. When you're cutting, it's going to go slow and you're going to feel like it takes forever, but when it's done, I mean, it's going to look really good. So I'm going to take you guys over and show you guys another piece that I did. Okay, so this is another piece that I did. This is another image that I got offline. Did the exact same thing. This was actually the very first one that I ever made, and this is a bison. It's one of my favorite animals, and I made this piece right here for my office. And the pieces that look the best are the ones that have a lot of, I'm going to say, negative space. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but if you look at this, I mean, look how much is cut out in the middle, and when you step back, I mean, it really pops on the wall. So when you're looking around at pictures, the ones that have the most cut out in the most white or whatever wall you're going to put behind it are typically the ones that look the best. So anyway, this is another piece that I did that I was really proud of. So also I did a bass eating a lure that I haven't hung yet, and I'll post a picture of that right now. You can check that one out. That one came out stellar. It looks really good. I'm super happy with that one as well. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys sort of how I do things. Get that sheet metal, like I said, 16 gauge, 14 gauge is plenty heavy. Depending on what you're doing, you can adjust. Like if you're making a gate, like you're making art for like a gate or something like that, yes, you're gonna wanna go a little bit thicker. If you're hanging something on sheetrock, you're gonna wanna go thin. That like 16 gauge is perfect. But turn your plasma all the way down, project the image on the metal, trace it out, make it very clear what areas need to be cut out. Take your time, cut out everything. Always start your arc in the areas that are going to be cut out and then start drawing your lines. That way you get nice clean lines. Take your time, and then you have a piece like this and you can hang it on your wall, and it's totally a really cool way to use your plasma cutter. So hope this helped you guys out. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and have fun, man. This is definitely a cool way to use your tools.